And then for goal E3.1, create a safe and functional pedestrian ways and bicycle routes as an alternate mode of travel. The proposed Main Street concept to unify and direct all pedestrian traffic from these multifamily structures out to the transportation corridor on State Route 347. That is one of the main goals, and as such, it satisfies that goal. Conformance with the zoning ordinance. The proposed zoning will be consistent with the general plan if it's adopted as proposed in the amendment. The light industry warehouse to PAD, given the context of the surrounding area, is appropriate. Light industry against single-family residential is not exactly appropriate. The proposal has been fully vetted by all departments within the city that have reviewed it. The proposal meets all requirements outlined in Section 18 of the zoning ordinance. For public outreach, the applicants did a little more than usual and what is required. Back in May 23rd of 2022, they sent out a neighborhood meeting notification and held a first neighborhood meeting. This was an informal neighborhood meeting to let adjacent property owners within 600 feet of the site know that they were going to be applying for this and to hear what their concerns were. Then, as the project progressed, September 8th, the site was posted. September 15th and 16th, newspaper legal notices were published in the Casa Grande Dispatch and the Maricopa Monitor. On September 16th, another round of meeting notification letters were sent out for a second public meeting on October 6th. On November 18th, the public hearing notifications were sent out to property owners again. Sign posting was updated with the public hearing dates, this date, and a newspaper ad was published in the Casa Grande Dispatch. Yes, sorry. Additional information, at the beginning of the meeting, I left a memo on the commissioner's desks there that today we received a letter from the public with concerns about the project. As part of being open and forthcoming here, presented it to you. It's part of the official record. It's been entered in. It'll be in the packet that gets forwarded to the City Council after a determination by the commission here today. As such, staff is recommending approval of minor apartments at Honeycutt, minor general plan amendment case GPA 22-09, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and or is amended by the commission. And staff also recommends that the Planning Commission approve apartments at Honeycutt Planned Area Development, case number PAD 22-13, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and or is amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'd like to note that these requests build upon each other. The request for the minor general plan amendment has to be acted upon first before the request for the PAD rezone amendment can be acted on. Available for any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I think we've got a couple of speaker cards on this. So now that the presentation is complete for both 5.1 and 5.2, if those speakers would like to approach and voice their comments, now is the time.
Hi, my name's Glenn Olson. I've got a few questions. I had some emails with Derek and with Alan. Is there an Alan here? And with Alan, okay. What my questions were is, what is affordable family housing? What exactly was it? Is it Section 8 type housing that's subsidized for the individual residents? And what the answer was it's not subsidized Section 8 housing. But if it's not that, then I would assume it's some kind of other subsidized type operation. So is it subsidized by our taxes right now that you guys are giving to the developers for things like roadways, fire, police, all of that? Is that how it's getting subsidized? Because I don't know of any developer that would actually build apartments or anything that would be below market rates. So if it is being subsidized somehow, I have a very large concern about that, because whenever you get into subsidized housing of any kind, what it's attracting is people that really can't afford housing at all, and it's not professionals like I was told in an email. They say that it attracts teachers, firefighters, things like that. I don't buy that. My question is, who is it really going to attract? Well, it could attract a lot of the people that we don't want to be attracted right in the heart of the city and right next to our development, because it can bring a lot of crime. It can bring, just a lot of activities that we don't want to see. So I'm very opposed to that. And then as far as traffic goes, I know that it's all going in on Honeycutt right now, but we all know that there's got to be 2 exits at least out of a development like that. So what I was told is this other exit is going to be another roadway through that property and the adjacent property over into Desert Cedars Parkway. Well, Desert Cedars Parkway, my concern is then all these people are going to be going through the Desert Cedars development to get around traffic, to get around traffic lights and everything else. It just puts a lot of stress on our development. And when you're talking 574 units, you're talking, 1,100 cars, potentially. That's a lot of vehicles daily going through this area. So I've got a huge question on that. So if somebody could answer me, how is this being subsidized?
If I may, the applicant is here,
Thank you. If you could state your name and residence, city and state, please.
Yes, good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission. Congratulations, Commissioner Hughes, on your appointment. For the record, Alan Bodwin, I'm with Norris Design. I office at 901 East Madison Street in Phoenix. And so what I'll do is I'll respond to his second question of the traffic and how that's managed. And then my client, Eric Rodahl, will come up and talk to you about his inquiry with regards to how affordable housing works. And Eric will respond to that. So regarding the traffic component, our primary access will be the construction of a minor collector roadway that is the Honeycutt alignment that leads directly into the project. That roadway has been designed to accommodate not only the apartments that we intend to build, the 574 units, but our traffic engineer also analyzed the future retail center that's being planned there. So we were able to obtain a concept plan, and we analyzed that. The roadway will certainly be designed to accommodate all that traffic, and we expect the in and out in terms of activity to utilize that roadway. We have no intention of making any connections to Desert Cedar to the south. There'll be secondary emergency access connections through the retail center, which will accommodate emergency. And on our plan, there is a second driveway on the northern portion of the plan. So there is nothing headed south with regards to Desert Cedars or interface with a single family community. So I'll call on Eric now to talk about the affordable housing component.
Could I make a comment on that?
Good evening, Commission, and as he said, congratulations. My name is Eric Rodahl. I'm with DBG Properties, the developer of this project. With regard to your first question about the subsidy on this, this is not Section 8 housing. It will be funded through the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program, which works in such a way that it's a federal subsidy, so it's not a local subsidy, and it helps subsidize the construction of the project. In return for the construction of the project, we are required to income certify our tenants up to a certain level. In layman's terms, what that means here in Maricopa was all our residents would be, depending on family size, making between $45,000 and $55,000 a year, and they would be subject to pay their rent and against any fair housing laws and eviction rules if they do not make those payments. The other thing I would mention in terms of security and the types of folks we have is it really does, most of our tenants are kind of an essential workforce, as we would say. We are a long-term owner, and with this project, a long-term stakeholder in Maricopa if it goes forward. So we build, own, and operate and manage all of our projects with the goal of holding it long-term. We spend a lot of time and resources investing in security for the well-being of our properties as a long-term holder and want to be a stakeholder in the community.
Thank you. Andre Zettler, was this the?
I only wanted to speak on 5-7.
Okay, thank you. Commission, I'm going to just go right down the list.
Close the public hearing.
Yes. I'll close the public hearing.
Okay.
Sorry. The public hearing is closed.
Yeah, you have to, during the public hearing, anybody can come up and say whether.
We'll start the public hearing
It already, yeah,
as
right.
at 6:29. Yeah. It is open. The public hearing is open. Please.
There's 2 items on this. If
Yes.
you're speaking to the general plan amendment, that's this item. If you're speaking to the zoning, that's the next item. I don't think it's being aired, but there will be another public hearing.
I don't know which one it is. It's the exit. So is that,
You can speak.
which one is it?
Come on up.
Hello, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak up in the back, but I just wanted to make sure. My only concern with this is the 2 entries and exits are both on the same side of the complex, on the kind of north side is the railroad. I know it never happens in Maricopa, but if there is a really bad accident at Honeycutt and the 347, how would they gain access to either one of those if the only way you can get to this complex is through Honeycutt Road, even though there's a retail center there? That would be my only concern. And as for the subsidized housing, as much as I had concerns about Oasis at the Wells, it hasn't affected it at all.
Any other comments? We'll close the public hearing. Commissioner Hughes.
Yes, thank you. 60% of the median income and average wage of 45,000 to 50,000, to me, is not low income, really. But I'd hate to see us be in any violation of fair housing laws also. So I just caution the committee to always consider when we're making these decisions about housing that we take in regards to federal housing acts. Thank you.
Vice Chair, if I could, I'd take that a step further. It's also not part of the zoning code, which is your purview. So taking into account those income levels would not be appropriate at this meeting.
Commissioner LaFalle.
I don't have any questions.
Well, we're looking at 2 different matters here. One is the minor general plan amendment, and that is, will the use that we are talking about for this particular piece of land, is it compatible with the minor general plan amendment? One of the criteria is minimizing conflict between land uses, and I don't see where this creates any conflict with land use, either on its own or with its neighbors. Another is to provide housing diversity for all ages and incomes, and obviously this project would provide it. Now we're talking about, remember, the general plan amendment. We want to, part of the criteria would be to assure diverse housing stock, dwelling type, and density. And there's no question in this entire presentation is peppered throughout with addressing that particular issue. And I have one other, or others, but I only have one other to mention, and that is that the whatever we're going to put there provides pedestrian and bicycle pathways and whatever, and we certainly have that exhibited here. They are my comments for the minor general plan amendment, and I do have other comments for part 2 of this, but should I get in? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, a couple of questions. I'm trying to visualize where you put the site. Back to the, and I love your development review, the 4 sections, but back to engineering. Could you walk me through again the flow of traffic, both exits and where they're going to exit to? Because I got a little confused on that. We've got the, you know, the 500 and some odd units, 474, but I wanted to make sure I was clear on the ways to exit and what major thoroughfares, because I know you said you did the traffic analysis, but I'm not quite clear on that.
Yes, Chairman and members of the commission. So the primary connection is, I don't know if you're able to see what's up on the
I'm not, maybe that's part of my problem.
Yeah, so up on the screen behind you, the primary access is Honeycutt, and the secondary is in the northwest corner of the property. It's labeled there, but it's very light in terms of how it projects up on the screen. It should also be in the materials that you have, that's the paper copies. And I should mention that a comment was made with regards to an emergency, and if there's a situation where there's a traffic condition that's out at Honeycutt and John Wayne Boulevard, there is an alternative here, and what we envision happening is as the retail develops adjacent to us, we would anticipate it's going to have loading activities and truck circulation. And the concept plan that we saw had retail on the northern portion of the property backing to the rail and then facing to the south. And what we would envision is there is a underpass underneath the bridge at the rail of John Wayne, and vehicles can transverse underneath the bridge there. And so what we would envision is that secondary connection can be accommodated through the retail center and then under the bridge and with connectivity to the west side of John Wayne Boulevard.
Do you presently know I don't know how you phrase it, the amount of traffic or cars right now in that area, and compared to how much more will be generated by this?
Commissioner, we have a traffic study that says all that. I did not memorize those numbers in advance of tonight's meeting, but all of that has been documented. It is available with the staff and on file here at City Hall.
Okay, and then the other one goes back to the same issue, which we quite often get asked about, and I'm just so thrilled. Could you walk through for everybody where it says on the second square that the fire department has reviewed it? Can somebody please tell me what that is? Because again, in that area with the traffic, I just want to make sure we're clear on what all do they review when they review that?
Vice Chair Sharp, Commissioner Irving, yes. The fire plans examiner takes a look at the site and goes through the 2018 fire code. And under the provisions in the code where there needs to be, for a site like this, 2 points of ingress egress, which they have accommodated with the Main Street, with the connection through Honeycutt Avenue, and then the emergency access on the northwest of the site. And then in the staff report on page 3, you can see what the ultimate conceptual plan is for the property to the west, the commercial.
All right.
And you'll see the connection of Honeycutt Avenue come down into the site. There's also then a connection that'll be going down towards the south, but then also back out west onto John Wayne Parkway through that retail and then possibly some additional residential in that large piece. If I can go back in the presentation, if you look at the site here, all that vacant land to the west of the site that's highlighted in yellow, that's the whole conceptual commercial and residential future development. So this site will connect to that little stub sticking out at the Y Parkway there. That's Honeycutt Avenue. On the northwest side, if you see that little jog going up, connection through on the north side along the railroad tracks down to that. But then also when you compare that to the concept plan on page 3 in the staff report, you'll see the development or the conceptual development, and then there'll be a spine road going down off of Honeycutt down south. There'll be a punch out again onto John Wayne, approximately where the Y is in Wayne, and then also down further into Desert Cedars Drive there. So there'll be multiple entry points through that whole area to access this site and then also provide egress out of this site in case there's an emergency. Or if there was, say, as the constituent said, an accident at that corner, there'll be other outlets that the residents here would be able to get out. Also other inlets that any emergency services would be able to use to get into the site in case there's an emergency in there at the same time.
I just think it's important for everybody to know that this has been thoroughly vetted by our fire department. That's all.
Yes.
So on the access, is that going to be constructed with this project, or are we waiting on the future retail for that extra emergency access?
I do not have the answer for that. The capital projects and the city engineer know a bit more. My understanding is that the Honeycutt extension will connect in. There'll be an all-purpose, all-weather emergency access to access that northwest corner of the site to Honeycutt Avenue. And I'm not positive, but I believe there will be another sort of access going out from that, south of Honeycutt Avenue. But I'm not positive on that, and unfortunately, we don't have the city engineer here right now to be able to elaborate on that further.
And if you're looking at your crystal ball, when is the future retail coming in? Is it going to come in about the same time as this, or is that?
I am not entirely sure. Originally, these were all supposed to come in together, but this project here was tracking a little bit faster than the commercial development. So the applicant here is moving forward with their entitlements for this. I believe the understanding is the build out of this site is 36 to 48 months, something like that, 36 to 48 months. So we're looking at until residents are here, we're looking at 3 to 4 years from now.
Okay, and then I do have a question surrounding the plan amendment for this, and thinking about the use overall. This project is right adjacent to the railroad, obviously, here, and so the noise generated by the railroad would be a real concern, it seems like, and could get quite noisy for the people living there. Whereas if it was a commercial industrial type use, that wouldn't be an issue, and actually might serve as a nice buffer then for the people of Desert Cedars. So what are the plans to mitigate the noise for the future residents of this site?
In the PAD booklet, one of the variations to the base zoning for high density that the applicant is requesting, after doing a noise study, they have proposed that based on further studies for sound studies, to be allowed to develop a wall along the railroad tracks that is, I believe, up to 14 feet in height to shield that, A, from the visual, and B, from the noise that may affect the residents of the site here. And they've left it sort of open to be able to address any of the mitigations as advised by their sound engineers, I guess.
Okay, no other questions.
Thank you. I mean, the only comment that I was going to address is that I feel as if this addresses goal B14 really well, where you're minimizing conflicts between land uses, as you've indicated in your presentation, by creating that buffer between the railroad tracks, adding some additional development there, and with the things that you just mentioned with the increased height in order to buffer the sound. I think that's a good direction. So that's the only comment that I have regarding this GPA. I'll take a motion. I have a motion and a second. I'll take a vote. Because of the technical difficulties, can we just do a simple roll call? Yeah. Are there any additional discussion, questions? All right, I've got a motion and a second. So move. Take a vote. Aye. Aye. Got 6 ayes, none opposed. Motion passes. 5.2. 5.2 is the PAD 22-13. Public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall discuss and take action on a request for a zoning map amendment on approximately 20.17 acres, effectively rezoning the site from light industry and warehouse CI1 to planned area development PAD to create the apartments at Honeycutt planned area development, including the creation of the development land use plan, permitted uses, and development standards for a proposed multifamily development. The property is generally located southeast of the southeast corner of John Wayne Parkway and Maricopa Casa Grande Highway. This is for discussion and action, and we've already had the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. I can present again if you would like.
I don't think we need the presentation again. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. If anyone wishes to speak on the PAD, now is the time. Close the public hearing, seeing no one. Does anyone have any additional comments or questions in regards to the PAD?
So I believe this is the right place to ask. There was several exceptions mentioned in the narrative. There was parking, there was building height, those kind of things. I was wondering if you could, maybe for the benefit of the audience and everybody, put in a little bit more of an explanation for those here as to why those variances are being sought.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Sharp, Commissioner Frank. As part of the PAD, there are a number of variations that have been requested by the applicant to create this zoning district for this site. As part of it, in the PAD booklet, the applicant has listed out all the potential uses that would be allowed on the site, and then also the development standards, such as the setbacks, the height of the buildings, parking, distance from street frontage, and a number of these other items. As part of a PAD, what it is, it's to tailor a specific sort of zoning ordinance for the site. And with that, they've formulated their tables under Table 5 in the PAD, Table 6, and with that, under the zoning ordinance, we require that if you are doing certain variations to that base zoning, that we have a PAD design elements that must be provided. So each variation that they ask for, they must supply a valued number of additional elements. On page 25 of the PAD booklet, you'll see the listing. As proposed, the PAD is requiring 17 different design elements because of the different variations that they are proposing through this. And the applicant is providing 19 design elements. So they meet that, and that is why staff was moving forward with recommendation for approval of the PAD, because they are meeting their requirement per the zoning code for a PAD.
Say, let's just pick on one of them for a second. Parking was one of the variances that we're seeking here. Can you go into the justification as to why the parking variance is being sought?
Yes, for the parking, and staff worked with the applicant on this quite intensely. The applicant is proposing to change the parking requirements based on the size of an apartment. So for a one-bedroom apartment, they're reducing in the family workforce from 1.5 down to 1.25. Then for the senior apartments, one-bedroom apartment, 1.5, they're doing 0.75. And in the PAD booklet, they've illustrated their rationale for that, being that senior residential apartments, restricted 55 and over, that in their experience on developing these, I believe almost a dozen of these around the country, that parking requirement number is what is actually happening in their other developments, and that is, they're basing that on the analysis of the needs and provisions of the other developments that they've had. Same with the workforce housing, that there's not as many vehicles with the families that would be living in those units. So they propose this reduction, each one down, following down the market rate. They've reduced a little bit as well with the one bedroom from 1.5 down to 1.25, slight reductions. So across the board, a little bit of reductions, but with doing that, staff analyzed it and saw that for these developments, the reduction in the parking offset by the design bonuses that they've included met that PAD requirement. When looking at the total number of what is required and what they are providing, that is on page 1 of the staff report. So they're required a parking of 804 and providing 843 based on what their generated new table is. However, even looking further into that, under the regular zoning ordinance, under the design incentives, we are allowed to grant a reduction of 20% without a variation or anything. If you meet certain design criteria, you're allowed to have a 20% reduction in your parking. That was applied on several other projects that have been presented before the commission here. But staff really did look at this and had a lot of questions for the applicant on that, and having them justify and prove that that is actually, these reductions are what market, I'm tripping over my words here, in actual development scenarios, this is what the need was, and they're basing it on that. And from that discussion, staff decided that, okay, we have enough evidence here that we're comfortable with that, and we'll allow for this to be there and proceed and recommend approval for it.
Okay, yeah, that does make some sense given the senior apartments, that there's a reduction in the number of parking stalls needed. So I appreciate the explanation.
Yeah, how much over the 20% did you go? I don't have the numbers here, so I'm just asking, you know, we know you're allowed by code to go over the 20%. How much over the 20% did you go?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, they're not over the 20%. I was saying in the ordinance, other developments, they're not including this 20% reduction that's allowed in the zoning ordinance. Instead, they varied what the requirement was per unit size. So they kind of went a different route rather than doing that 20% reduction.
I guess my concern is it just puts us, to me, I can't see anybody else, in an awkward position not to follow our own code. And that's been explained to me, but I guess at least, I'm not opposed to it, but you follow my reasoning? I think we're being asked to, the 20% is set, we can't do anything about that, but to make sure how far over, it puts us in violation of the code. And the answer is always, well, but you're getting a lot more from it. I guess I'm just thinking it's sort of a gray area to me. I guess I'd almost feel comfortable if there was a commitment to visit the code to change it, because every time that comes up, almost every single one, there's a variance over our code. So I wouldn't want to do anything about it right now, but I'm just simply saying, I worry about the appearance of that as far as we're all concerned, then why do you have the code and you could just come up and justify it? That's all. It's just a comment, I think, that eventually, somewhere along the line, it needs to be addressed. Mainly, it's a perception problem to me, that's all.
Derek, if I may.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we're in the process of evaluating that now. But first and foremost, I would also point out that, you know, these are the professionals that are building these. These know what the development will demand. And eventually it's encumbersome on them to come in and meet that parking requirement. If they underpark it, sir, is where I'm going with this. If they can't provide parking and they can't adequately serve their development, ultimately that's going to impact them. One of the things that we're learning as we go through this is that, you know, all the parking requirements that are currently in the zoning ordinance are not exact. There are some that are right on point and others that are not. We're working on that concurrently so that we don't have to address this in every single development that comes through. So we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of this meeting, but it's underway now, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. There's one more factor involved in calculating needed parking spaces here in Maricopa, and it's peculiar to Maricopa, and I don't know that it applies to many other communities, and that is that 75% of our workforce leaves this city to work elsewhere. Now, that being the case, you're going to have, in my opinion anyway, you're going to have more cars, not fewer, than you would see in your applying a standard that you see elsewhere. I can't think of any other community where 75% of the people leave the city to work somewhere else. So in that sense, if anything, I don't think that we should be reducing the needed parking. I think we should probably be looking at keeping it at where it's at or maybe increasing it. I really don't know what the logic is behind these numbers, but I just present that to you. The senior situation, I agree, and as we get to 55 and older, you have fewer cars per household, and so that makes sense to me. Also, the electric vehicle parking. You're going to begin with 2% of the parking spaces will be provided for electric parking. And I have no idea if that's adequate or not. I don't know what the guideline is. And you're suggesting that you would extend that another 8% as conditions would dictate. And I don't really know where that's going to take us either.
I just have one, I don't know if it would be a question, maybe a comment. I noticed that the amenities for each development is separate, yet the parking appears to be shared according to the narrative. Is that correct? And if so,
Partially.
why?
Some of the amenities are the clubhouse and the pool and what's inside the clubhouse. Those are specific to each type of unit, workforce, market rate, senior. Then all the other amenities throughout are open to everyone. Same with the parking. So it's the open space amenities, the tot lot, the dog park, open space, the ball courts, the parking, those are all available for everyone, but the clubhouses are development type specific.
Well, I'd just like to say the parking seems pretty safe to me when you're dealing with senior housing and the amount of people per household. So I'm certainly going to support that.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. I too had some questions about the rationale behind how you got the parking reduction, and you've answered those to my satisfaction. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for 5.2. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The motion passes. 5.3. GPA 22-12. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall discuss and take action on a request for a minor general plan amendment on approximately 40.57 acres, effectively changing the future land use designation from high-density residential, medium-density residential, and employment to high-density residential. The site is generally located northeast corner of North White and Parker Road and North Farrell Road. This is for discussion and action. Presentation.
Good evening. Hello again. Derek Shear with the Planning Department, here to present agenda item 5.3 GPA 22-12. In this presentation, I also have agenda items 5.4, ZON 22-08, 5.5, ZON 22-09, and 5.6, ZON 22-10. These four applications work together as one. It is generally the same site. As we see here, the applicant here is Roy Arietta of Ware Malcolm. On the vicinity map, as you can see here, the overall subject site for these cases is 60-acre site located at the northeast corner of North White and Parker Road and West Farrell Road, not North Farrell Road. There's a typo. My apologies. The proposal is a minor general plan amendment from high-density residential HDR, medium-density residential MDR, and employment E to high-density residential HDR for approximately 40 acres, and a rezone from general rural to general commercial, general rural to multiple unit residential, and general rural to high-density residential. Although that is a bit of a mouthful and it's confusing, I think in this presentation it'll be illustrated a little bit better. So as we see here, the subject site right there, and what the applicant is proposing to do is to develop the overall 60 acres into basically 3 different developments, but the developments will work together. Access will be from North White and Parker and West Farrell Road. The rezone request for commercial, as we can see here, right there on the left-hand side, proposed general commercial zoning. That is right at the northeast corner of White and Parker and Farrell Road. The applicant proposes to rezone this area to general commercial for the future development of an office park, future retail development at the corner where you don't see any buildings. That's still under a conceptual phase, and the applicant hasn't quite figured out what they want to do with it. And then just north of that is a mixed-use office and self-storage building. It'll be office space, 2 stories in the front, self-storage behind, and then RV storage behind that. Moving eastward, we have a proposal to rezone from the general rural to the proposed RH high-density residential. This is for the development of a more traditional 3-story garden apartment development. And then moving eastward further is the proposal for the rezone from general rural to residential multiple unit, which is the step down from the high-density residential. And this is for development of a cottage-style duplex, 4-plex apartment buildings. The 2 residential rezones and the conceptual plans here, the applicant will build a spine road in between them. The spine road is going to be built to city standards as a collector road for eventual development to the north of the site that'll connect into it. The commercial portion is accessed itself off of White and Parker and Farrell Road and does not have a connection into the commercial residential areas. So the 3 projects, Maricopa mixed use, that's the commercial rezone, Artisan Villas, and the Allure Apartments, they were routed for review. They went out to external stakeholders and technical advisory committee, internal development team review as well. Again, planning looked at these, the general plan amendment, and then the rezones for land use compatibility, zoning appropriateness, setbacks, landscape standards, design standards, functionality of the site. Engineering looked at it for engineering standards and for road and street standards, traffic analysis, water, wastewater, and floodway. Fire department looked at it under the International Fire Code, and building looked at it under the International Building Code at this entitlement and zoning level. What we can see here on, for the staff analysis, on the left you see the current general plan. As you see, we have the zone change 2208, that's the commercial on the west side, zone 2210 in the middle, and zone 2209 on the right. As this corner was planned out, it was planned to be a high-density commercial active corner. The future, this will be very commercial dense. To the south, we have commercial and mixed use. To the west, we have mixed use as part of the San Travasa development. So the general plan is looking to clean up these lines. If you can see that employment line, it bisects on an angle from the northwest to the southeast of that center of that lot. It didn't follow, when it was laid down, any actual property lines. Right now, this is a giant site that is a few hundred acres currently being farmed. So it wasn't really taking into consideration what development demands were when determining these boundaries. As you can see, the proposed site just touches northwards into the MDR, the medium density residential, while we have some of it already under the general plan as high density residential for the multifamily. So all of this was pretty much established, but the general plan amendment is proposing to clean up these lines to better suit what is a more common building envelope for developments. And then along with that is the zone changes. So we're going from general rural, which does not match what the general plan has for this area, to a general commercial, a multiple unit residential, and a high density residential. And it looks a little confusing and the way the case numbers are, but what it is, you can see that at that northeast corner, high density commercial urbanized development, then the higher density residential development, then the lesser density residential development, multifamily, and then going to the east more, CR3 single family residential. And it's the natural progression of this step down away from this intense corner to the more single family, lower density development that'll be found more eastward along Farrell Road. For the general plan goals and objectives, the proposal meets objective A 2.1, supports the land use requests that improve the balance between the housing and employment. The proposal is proposing a large section of commercial, that'll be office, storage, retail, and then also higher density going down to lower density multifamily. Objective B1.1.2, encourage certain areas of the city to rezone to mixed use and higher density housing and redevelopment within these plans. This is consistent with that. Objective B2.2.2, promote higher density infill housing, live, work, and mixed use proximity to transit corridors. The proposed rezoning does follow this, and same with the cleanup of the general plan map. And objective G4.A.1.4, promote social and cultural ties to the community through public gathering spaces, neighborhood theming, and well-connected communities. All the resident, back up to this site plan here. As you can see, these multifamily developments connected through that main spine road, but within interior of it with the conceptual broad open space, clubhouses, then all the units around with, when this DRP comes to the Planning and Zoning Commission, there are DRP submittals for both multifamilies and the office and self-storage, RV storage in. They're being vetted right now. But when you see those, you'll understand how that better meets that goal because of the integration of the communities through this. I'll go back. So conformance with the zoning ordinance. The proposed zoning will be consistent with the general plan as proposed if amended by this commission. The general rural to general commercial, multiple unit residential, and high density residential are appropriate given the context of the development goals of the surrounding area and the urbanized higher intensity use around this future busy corridor and street connection. The proposal has been vetted by all the departments that have reviewed it for the city, and it meets all the requirements outlined in the zoning ordinance. And again, this is a proposed rezone to the base zone. There aren't any requests for variations. The applicant will, under their DRP, meet all of the regulations under these specific zone categories, and no variations. For public outreach, on November 4th, a neighborhood meeting notification letters were sent. On November 4th, site sign was posted. On November 5th and 22nd, newspaper legal notices were published in the Casa Grande Dispatch. November 22nd, a neighborhood meeting was held. At the neighborhood meeting, there wasn't anyone in attendance. Again, with the other case, each one of these build upon the other. The minor general plan amendment needs to precede the zone change amendments. So staff recommends approval from the Planning Commission, approves Maricopa mixed-use minor general plan amendment, case GPA 22-12, subject to conditions of approval stated in the staff report and/or as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve Maricopa mixed-use rezone, case number ZON 22-08, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and/or as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the Artisan Villas rezone, case number ZON 22-09, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and/or as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And finally, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the Allure Apartments rezone, case number ZON 22-10, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and/or as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have. Also, the applicant is present and will be able to answer any questions that you may have for them as well.
That was a bit of a mouthful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Although these are four interrelated cases, they will be read separately. So at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing for GPA 22-12. Seeing no comments, I'm going to close the public hearing. Again, this is for discussion and action. This time, I'm going to start to my right.
No, I see an excellent plan. I certainly support this. It's wonderful for me being a new member of our community and seeing the growth that is happening. It's actually outstanding. And to work with these developers, and I'd just like to say one thing, that I appreciate the staff, how when I first come in and just sworn in on Monday, and then sitting down with me and going through every zoning issue tonight, it was greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make one comment. I appreciate the mixed use component of this, and I really am very optimistic and hopeful that the commercial aspect will move forward as well. Thank you.
My only comment, having reviewed the staff report and the applicant's narrative, I agree with what I've read.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I would support, it's a great use of changing the zoning because that's what's there. So I applaud staff and everybody for doing that. It puts it in line with what's happening of stuff we've already approved.
I mean, the only comment that I would have is that I think that this does a great job of cleaning up the current general plan. When general plans are usually laid out, it's conceptual in nature. This is kind of what we like, and it doesn't necessarily neatly tie to specific parcels or specific projects. So this is a great way to really clean up our general plan and to make it consistent with what we want to do as a city in the direction. So at this point, I will entertain a motion.
Move approval of GPA 22-12.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. All, Jesus, lost my words. Any further discussion? I knew it was something. Seeing no further discussion, I'll take a vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. 5.4, ZON 22-08, public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall discuss and take action to approve zoning map amendment on approximately 19.35 acres, effectively rezoning the site from the general rural, GR, zoning district to the general commercial, GC, zoning district. The site is generally located at the northeast corner of North White and Parker Road and West Farrell Road. This is for discussion and action. We've already had the presentation. You have no other comments or concerns?
No, I don't.
All right,
Vice
I
Chair,
will
thank
open
you.
the public hearing at this time. If you wish to speak on ZON 22-8, the public hearing is now open. Seeing no question or comments, I shall close the public hearing. This is for discussion and action. Do I have any comments? I have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All right, all in favor? All opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. 5.5, ZON 22-09, public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall discuss and take action on a request for a zoning map amendment on approximately 24.26 acres, effectively rezoning the site from the general rural, GR, zoning district to the multiple unit residential, RM, zoning district. The site is generally located at the northeast corner of North White and Parker Road and West Farrell Road. Discussion and action. Since we've already seen the presentation, I will open the public hearing. Seeing no respondents, I will close the public hearing. Any discussion needed for this? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. And last but not least, 5.6, ZON 22-10, public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall discuss and take action on a request for a zoning map amendment on approximately 16.31 acres, effectively rezoning the site from the general rural zoning district to the high-density RH zoning district. The site is generally located at the northeast corner of North White and Parker Road and West Farrell Road. Discussion and action. We've already seen the presentation. I will open the public hearing. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. I will take a motion unless someone has a comment. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The motion passes. Did I get them all, Rick?
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, 5.7, DRP 22-19, a request by S3 Biotech LLC requesting review and approval of site, landscape, elevation, and photometric plans for a proposed medical and innovation campus containing a hospital building, medical office building, a 136-unit multifamily residential complex, and a hotel building on approximately 9.43 gross acres. The property is generally located at the southeast corner of North John Wayne Parkway and West Bolin Road. This is for discussion and action.
Good evening, Vice Chair Sharp, Commissioners. Good evening. So my name is Byron Easton, Senior Planner here at the City. I'm here to present the first item that you just spoke of, 5.7. This is a Development Review Permit, Major Development Review Permit, DRP, 22-19 for the District 3, it's Copper Sky. The applicant is S3 Biotech, LLC, and the location, as we can see above, is the southeast corner of John Wayne Parkway and West Poland Road. As you can see, the subject site on the map above, in the vicinity map, at the corner, and is approximately 9.5 acres. So this is a very interesting development for the city of Maricopa, and I think we're all very excited about it. This is going to be a medical and innovation campus containing a hospital building, a medical office building, a 136-unit multifamily residential complex, and last but not least, a hotel building. So a lot of different uses on the site, but as you will see, they're very well integrated together and a seamless development. Very well thought out. So the District 3 at Copper Sky, as you can see on the screen, is going to have several access points. Primarily, they will have access from John Wayne Road directly, as you can see in the southwest corner. In addition, they'll have access from North Bolin Road on the north point of the property. And then we will also have access from Graythorn Drive. So as you're headed to our Copper Sky recreational facility, you'll have access from that direction as well. So in addition, there will be a punch out right where the N is, the north arrow on the map, and that's going to connect to the senior living facility that's planned developed just to the southeast of the site. So very good circulation, vehicular circulation on the site. So this is mainly and foremost, the primary use here is going to be a medical campus. Okay, so the medical campus is going to have an ER hospital, which is going to be 5 stories, complete with a helicopter pad. And then also a medical office building. So the medical office building will be more specialized medicine. So the idea is the general hospital, the ER hospital, and then the specialized MOB, medical office building, where you'll go see more specialized providers, such as orthopedic surgeons, things like that. So that office building will be primarily, rented out by these specific providers in that building. In addition, just the next building to the south says Copper Sky Lofts. So the Copper Sky Lofts are 8 stories, so 7 above grade, 1 below. And then the hotel to the very south of the site, which is planned to be 8 stories as well. And then as you can see in green, is a very large courtyard water feature. So we feel that a great bit of detail went into the site when planning for pedestrians and families that may be visiting the site for medical purposes or to stay at the lofts or the hotel, to be able to walk around the site. Everything is connected, and I'll go a little bit more into that here moving forward. The required parking spaces will be provided by surface parking and also structured parking above and below ground. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the building as we look at it from the south, from the north, looking southeast from Bolin, basically from the intersection of Bolin and John Wayne. You can see the ER hospital with helipad is directly in front of us. And then as you can look out, you see the medical office building, the lofts, the hotel, and the water feature. The buildings are connected via an elevated terrace bridge and walkway, one of which is covered and the other is uncovered. So there's going to be a couple different ways to get around the site, on the ground, and then also via these terrace bridge and walkways. So I'm just going to quickly go through each building and hit the main points of each building. So starting with the ER hospital, it's 24/7 care. It's going to have standard and ICU beds, feature an MRI and CT machines, as well as the operation room and general procedure room. There's also going to be an outdoor terrace provided, and the unoccupied 3rd floor planned is proposed for future expansion. Second building is the medical office building. You can see the covered, enclosed 3rd floor walkway connecting from the ER building to the medical office building. And then there's one below that on the 2nd floor, and that is uncovered open air walkway. That's going to service people that aren't, able to be exposed to open air and things like that. So it kind of serves everybody. The 3 stories of the medical office building are going to be leasable space for, as I said previously, the outpatient practices. It also is connected, as we can see. The lofts, 136 units, luxury, market rate apartments. So the applicant has made it clear that these are going to be provided mainly for the physicians themselves to rent out, also for the medical care providers in the MOB building. It's a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. It's going to have a central courtyard with a pool and lounge area. In addition, there's structured parking provided on the first 2 stories and then 1 additional level below grade. And then the hotel, this is a 138 self-service high-end hotel, conference center, outdoor pool, entertainment bar on the 2nd level deck, and a fitness room. There's also planned a ground floor restaurant with indoor, outdoor, and lounge seating. And the rooftop will contain an open area view with deck, a drink bar, and that's where the hot tubs will be located. And then this rendering shows us the large outdoor fountain area. This is primarily a gathering space, a place for reflection, to take one's lunch, to sit. This is open to the public. This is a well thought out shaded area that you're seeing where the seating is, and then the design is, so that the views are basically you can see it from all the buildings. So just really quick, the applicant has gone through the public outreach period. Let's keep in mind that this site is already zoned through a PAD. So the requirements for a DRP is that the sign is posted on the site, which was done on November 21st. Also that a public hearing notification letter is sent out to property owners within 600 feet, also done on the 21st. And then obviously we are here tonight to make a decision. As Derek previously mentioned, all of our applications, including DRPs, when we initially get them in, we send them out to an external technical advisory committee. We gather all of their comments. We share those with the applicant. We also have our own internal development review meeting where we all sit together and talk about the project. It is also routed out to the planning, engineering, fire department, and building. So they've all reviewed it very thoroughly in several different meetings to go over the questions and comments that have arisen from the reviews. So with a DRP, the 4 main things that we look at are listed above the required findings. We look at the design. How is the design of the buildings? How do they mesh together? How do they mesh together with the existing building on the site, which is the Copper Sky Recreation Center? We find that the design, the detail, the colors, the materials, all with this project are exemplary. In addition, we want to make sure that the function of the site is good, that it functions well, that it's a suitable environment for people. They can walk around, it's ADA compliant. We look at make sure that all fire apparatus and fire trucks can get to all of the spaces. I mean, just looking at the whole site as a whole, we really do look at it with a fine-tooth comb. And then also the last one would be the creation of a visually interesting built environment. I'd say this project definitely demonstrates that. So with that said, the proposed development is in conformance with all of the standards set forth by the District 3 PAD and the City of Maricopa zoning code. Like I said, the proposal has been fully vetted, and we do recommend approval for District 3. Case number DRP 22-19, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and/or as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm here to answer any questions you may have, and we also have a representative from the applicant as well.
Thank you for the presentation. At this time, I will open the public hearing.
There's no public hearing on these.
I do apologize. There is no public hearing on this.
Oh, you had a speaker card, sorry.
But there is a speaker card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Step right up. You're it. Come on up.
Sorry for the confusion.
could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andre Zeitler. I live at 44441 West Cypress Lane. And I just wanted to thank the commission. Just everything I've heard tonight. Appreciate that you all are asking the questions you're asking and thinking about the things you're thinking about, which is residents. So appreciate that. As far as this, I just wanted to present my concerns on the project. I'm actually looking forward to the project and want it to succeed. But a couple of my concerns are water use. So this big water display, to me, that seems unnecessary. Zero-scape type concepts, I think, are probably more appropriate for our city. And so I think the commission should think about that, not only just on this project, but probably all the projects of, doing our part to conserve water. To me, that seems like a simple type thing that could be looked at and to be considered. And another concern of mine was the noise level, especially now learning about the helicopter aspect. My thoughts on that are there's a possibility of moving where that one is, because where the site is, it seems like it could be moved closer to maybe Copper Sky, which is where they already have their noise level aspects there, and that may help things out. Also just noise reduction, possibly either design techniques or something with the buildings. The noise echoes off of tall buildings very easily and would then bounce around through the neighborhood. So things with helicopters and emergency vehicles, fire trucks, all of those sirens and lights and things like that, plus increased traffic through the area because of this service. I was just as a concern or consideration to have more noise reduction principles put into place on the areas facing towards the resident locations. So that was it.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gilbert, do you have any comments?
All I can say is I've seen this commented on and illustrated in the magazines and newspapers and online, but when I read this presentation, it just blew me away. It's incredible. When we have something that we're looking at that, according to the applicant's discussion, will create 11,500 construction-related jobs and 3,000 annual operational jobs, and that's just the beginning. Traffic has been discussed thoroughly in the information that we have here. We don't have to go into that. I think as far as the various entities and the buildings, it's somebody really gave a lot of thought to how this is going to flow. If you're going to go from one facility to the other, if you're going to go from the intensive care units to a doctor's office, I'm really impressed.
No comments.
Thank you. I think this is an excellent development for our community. When I see the needs and looking at a list of needs that I see for the community, and especially with the hospital, and almost looking like Mayo's Clinic, it's a fantastic thing that we can bring to our community for our constituents, and I fully support this.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this particular project. I think this is, it could be definitely the capstone for the Copper Sky area. I mean, I do share the concern with the helipad and things like that as far as noise is concerned, but I just hope that the applicant shows the same level of care that they've shown in presenting this and trying to mitigate some of those concerns. Because again, we are a nice, quiet community, and having a helicopter buzzing at 2 a.m. is never going to be pleasant. So I just hope that you guys consider that. At this time, this is for discussion and action. I will take a motion. Oh, you got a question? Sorry about that.
Yes, so in the PAD that we saw a few months ago, one of the things that was mentioned in that was the CLOMAR that the city is pursuing with the that the flood control district is pursuing the CLOMAR with FEMA, and we have that approved. It was mentioned in the PAD at the time that would be, the plans would be submitted to the district for review, and I don't think that's happened yet, and I didn't see any mention of any of that in this in the paperwork that we have. So I just wanted to follow up with that. Other than that, I do echo all the comments from the rest of the commissioners. This is an excellent project, and I'm definitely in favor of it. But I would like to see that addressed somehow.
Thank you, Commissioner Frank. So the applicant needs to submit a final grading and drainage plan before, prior to construction. And I know that the Clomar needs to be addressed before that final grading and drainage plan can be approved.
All right, any other comments? No? Okay. I will entertain a motion. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. 5.8 DRP 22-15. A request by Welker Development Resources, LLC, requesting review and approval of site plan, landscape, photometric, and elevation plans for a proposed 43-unit, two-story, multifamily development, generally located on approximately 2.24 net acres of vacant land located at the southwest corner of West Edison Road and North Wilson Avenue in the city of Maricopa. Discussion and action.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Lost at Edison, this is another major development review permit, a little smaller scale than the last one we saw. Smaller site, 2.24 net acres. This is directly adjacent to the Hampton Edison project that we saw recently last year. It's another multifamily type of development. It fits in with the heritage overlay that's there, the Heritage District overlay. It's going to be kind of developing as a mixed-use kind of area. We've got some interesting different options that are coming in for the multifamily mixed with the existing single-family, and then also obviously the commercial to the east. So this area is developing quite nicely. This is the latest addition, which is basically an upscale private residential community, rather small, 43 townhome units. Let's talk a little bit more about that. So the access to the site, as you can see on the site plan, has several points of access, not off of Edison Road, thankfully. So it's going to be a little bit more easier on the traffic situation. You have access directly. The main entrance is off of Wilson Avenue from the east, and then the south access point off of Lexington. The site rather unique. It has private backyards with patios, kind of like we saw with the bungalow product. It also has a main amenity area with a pool. All the improvements that we are going to require, half-street improvements, curb, gutter, sidewalk, landscape, streetlights, will be constructed on all sides of this development that are facing roads, so Edison Road, Wilson Avenue, West Lexington Avenue. Since I worked on the bungalows, the Hampton Edison product to the west, I'm definitely making sure that the sidewalks are matching up, the landscaping is consistent, same landscape palette, things like that. We're trying, basically, the overall plan for Lexington Avenue is kind of more of a pedestrian friendly parkway or walkway, you could say. It's not meant for cars. We're abandoning Roosevelt at the end of the street, at the end of Lexington. So this is going to be primarily for pedestrians. So we're providing great detail with the applicant to make that attractive. As you can see from the elevations, we've worked really hard with the applicant. This is the final version of the elevations. The first one looked a lot different, so we've gone back and forth. We feel that the applicant has made a very strong effort with the different use of materials, the different colors. I mean, we've got brick, we've got stucco, we've got that hardy board, kind of cement fiber board. We've got several different colors, dark grays, light grays, whites, kind of that nice dark, kind of a warmer maroon color. We've got lots of metal accents, awnings, overhangs, a lot of articulation. So it's a contemporary design, obviously, but it definitely with the brick and with the red, it definitely meets the intent and is consistent with the Heritage District design guidelines. The sign was posted on the site and the public hearing notification letters were sent out on November 9th, so they met all the requirements in that regard. I have not received any public comment at this time regarding this development. Once again, just wanted to reiterate that this goes out to the whole crew at the city. We have engineering, building, planning, fire department have made sure that the turning radiuses are correct, that the everything from where the refuse containers are on the site, making sure that the parking lots and the drive aisles are screened properly from the roads, so we're not looking at parking lots. I think I mentioned that these units, did I skip over that slide? Sorry. Okay, sorry, I think I kind of glossed over the fact that these are 3-bedroom units, and each of them have a private 2-car garage. There is guest parking also provided. However, every unit has its own garage. I'm sorry if I skipped over that. So the required findings, as I stated them all before, I don't need to go through those all, but we find that the design, the way the site flows, the points of access, cars are able to drive through very easily. The colors, the materials, the landscaping, we find that it does meet all of these required findings. So we find that it is substantially compliant with our zoning code, and that's the section 18.155.070 and 18.150.060. And the proposal has been vetted internally and externally with all departments. With that said, we do recommend the Planning Commission approve the Lofts at Edison DRP, case number 22-15, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and or is amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I am here to answer any questions you may have about this development.
Thank you for the presentation. This is for discussion and action. Do we have anyone who would like to comment? Commissioner.
I was really happy to see that you are going with the Heritage Design Guidelines. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I just think that's so important to consider that flaw. I was just curious what exactly that meant. Yeah.
So the Heritage District Design Guidelines is basically the Heritage District is meant to be a mixed-use type of district. So there is a height requirement. It's meant to be a little bit more of a dense kind of area that we're trying to, there's a 2-story requirement, which this development is hitting. More of an agrarian kind of style, so like brick, and if we think about the new fire building, the way that that's designed, that's kind of the ideal look. So the agrarian mixed with contemporary, as this one kind of shows. Yeah, okay, thanks.
I think an interesting concept here is that these can either be bought or rented. I like that. It's a break from the usual. I'm impressed with the elevation and what they've done with it, with the colors, the materials, and whatnot. Transportation has been well discussed, and and access is certainly adequately addressed.
Thank you. I haven't seen the other iterations of the elevations, but I take you at your word that they have morphed and they have changed, and it seems to me that you guys have really taken what we on this commission have really pushed back on, which is trying to get that variation in design, different materials, colors, and that's going to fit beautifully in the Heritage District. So kudos to you guys. Aside from that, I don't have any additional comments. So again, this is for discussion and action. We'll take a motion. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, passes. 5.9, DRP 22-25, a request by Garrett Howitz on behalf of STNL Development and Tractor Supply Company for review and approval of site landscape photometric and elevation plans for a proposed commercial development on approximately 3.41 acres, generally located at the northeast of the northeast corner of North Shea Way and West Maricopa Casa Grande Highway. Discussion and action.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item on the agenda, 5.9, as just read in, is DRP 22-25. This is an application for Tractor Supply Company by Garrett Howitz of STNL Development. The location is at the north of the northeast corner of Shea Way and West Maricopa Casa Grande Highway. On the subject site map, you can see here, it is just to the west of the Walmart. You have Walmart, and then you have a vacant lot, Shea Way, and then this proposed development is going to frame that outer edge of the remainder of the Wells commercial development. So all of this area is to be the, was originally proposed as the Wells Power Center. This is the first development of this portion of it, which was to see large to medium box retailers pressed up against each other, wall to wall, some of that you see like Marshalls and stuff like that, for the whole development from Shea Way all the way to Stonegate. This is the first of those developments to come in. The project area is 3.41 acres. As you can see, it's kind of a non-traditional shaped site. The site has been laid out for what the applicant really needs, with stretching it along the length of Shea Way, as we'll see in the site plan, to provide enough parking area, but then also in the back area to provide enough access for they themselves, but then also in the future for the other retail development that'll occur to its west to allow for that service alley in the back. Sorry about the site plan here. I had to stretch it a little bit so it could fit. If it was the actual shape, it would have been a little too skinny to see. The applicant is proposing to develop the site. There's going to be a 21,702 square foot retail building. That's the main Tractor Supply building. Attached to it will be a 21,528 square foot garden center. Within that garden center will be a 3,744 square foot greenhouse. There'll also be a forage shed. A forage shed is the enclosed building we'll see in the elevations that has all their hay, feed, tack, all of that for all of the rural houses that we have around here to help supply them with the food that they need for their animals. There's also going to be 3,812 square feet of outdoor sidewalk display. It's a little hard to see on this site plan, but the outdoor sidewalk display will be right in front of the building there, between the building and that entrance drive, and then also along in front of the garden center area. There'll also be a 3,000 square foot outdoor trailer display on the site plan. If you look, we're in the parking area, right at the bend of Shea Way, where you don't see the lines for the parking spaces. That will be for the outdoor trailer display area. The developer, they do have lots of trailers, different size trailers for hauling all sorts of things. They have that permanent display there, so, you know, to show their goods to everybody. The site's going to be providing 93 parking spaces and provide 16,607 square feet of open space. For the landscape plan, what you can see here, that 16,607 square feet of open space, landscape space, mostly is going to occur along Shea Way. So this is going to set the environment for entering this larger retail facility. We're going to have well landscaped right along the garden center, behind in the loading service area, but the applicant is also off-site, that retention basin that you see, that little triangle on the bottom right there, they will be landscaping that and improving that, also taking care of it, providing the irrigation system for it and all of that to enhance the landscape beautification for the site, also to act as a visual shield for that equipment display area, the trailer display area. Here we can see the elevations. On the top, we have a front elevation. You have the Tractor Supply store, then the garden center. The one below it, we have the west side elevation. Below that, we have the rear elevation. These elevations really don't do justice to what this building is going to look like. So we have some renderings from the applicant as well that really exemplify how this is going to look when fully developed. This elevation here, this is on along Shea Way. What we're seeing here, the top one, that's the building. The next one is the building with the greenhouse, and then the bottom one is the building, greenhouse, and then the fenced garden center area. So it looks a little odd when you're trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here, but that's what it is. It's sort of taking onion slices as you're stepping away from the building. Here we have a rendering of the front of the building from the parking lot, a bird's eye view. You have the facade. We've worked with the applicants on the color scheme, the lighting, the use of materials. It's a little bit different than the other Tractor Supplies that you'll see around the valley and also in the state. The applicant was very good to work with in doing these adjustments and getting these adjustments to us as quickly as possible. Here we have a ground level view looking from the parking lot at the entrance of the building and the garden center. As you can see, the garden center, it will be accessed from the front all the way through the back, so vehicles can drive right in, load up their garden center supplies, the trees, their hay, their other forage that they're going to need to put in the truck rather than wheel out in the parking lot. It has a nice entrance, sort of gable going across it. And again, as we've noted, these projects go through a rigorous vetting process where they're reviewed by members from nearly every single department in the city. When we send out for the external TAC committee and then the internal development review committee, we have planning, we have engineering, we have economic development, we have parks and rec, fire department, and all of the utilities all take a look at these plans when they come in, provide us comment, provide us with any concerns they may have, and then we give those back to the applicant, say address these comments and concerns, come back with a resubmittal, and then we go and step through the process until we get here before you as the public body. So planning is looked at it, fire, engineering, building, everyone has signed off on this saying that they do not have any issues, and therefore then we can present it here at the public meeting. The general plan for the area is employment and mixed use. This map is just a zoning map to show what the zoning is, but under the general plan, employment and mixed use, this falls under it and no amendment is needed. For the zoning map, zoning is light industry and warehouse. This is an allowed use under that zoning district, so no amendment is required. This is a by right use under the zoning ordinance. As saying such, the existing zoning is consistent with the proposal. The general plan is consistent with the proposal. It's been vetted by all the departments, and the proposal meets all the requirements outlined in Chapter 18 of the zoning ordinance. They meet all design criteria, parking, landscape, setbacks, everything. For public outreach, the site was posted on November 23rd, and notification letters were sent to property owners within 600 feet of the site on November 25th. And staff recommends the Planning Commission approve Tractor Supply Company Development Review Permit, case number DRP 22-25, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and or as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'm happy to answer questions that the Commission may have. Also, the applicant is here present and can answer any more specific questions, should you wish. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. This is for discussion and action. Have any comments?
I think there are some nice touches to this project that we haven't seen elsewhere. Number one, we've exceeded the number of parking spaces we need, which is a pleasant change. We have 3 accesses or egresses and ingress to the project. And I really like the nice touches that with the stone veneer and seam material that you're using in the facade. I think this was a well-thought and very nicely designed project.
Thank you. I don't have any comment besides much needed. Can't wait till they break ground and get going. So this is for discussion and action. I will entertain a motion. I've got a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item number 6, reports from commission and/or staff.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the commission, first and foremost, I just would start off by saying thank you so much for bearing with us this evening. Pretty tough agenda getting through it. My goodness, Mr. Chairman, well done, very well done.
Thank you.
Just would also mention this is the last meeting of the year for us. So please, as you move forward, have a wonderful, wonderful holidays. Be safe in your travels, and just a really safe and happy New Year. And we look forward to seeing you in January. Speaking of January, 2 meetings in January, and it's really kind of I think it's going to be very intriguing. First meeting, and we'll send out additional information as we get closer to this. But we're going to need to have an election of officers in January with that first meeting. It's January. It's time to nominate and reelect a chairman and vice chairman. So more information coming as we get closer to that. You know, it is appropriate to have some discussion amongst yourselves as to the nomination process. As with any communication away from here, I would just say be careful with respect to a quorum. Second meeting is really kind of exciting. On the 23rd, we're going to be bringing a transportation update to the Planning Commission. It's a joint task that we're working with Pinal County with respect to not only local but regional transportation. So we're going to bring the consultant in that evening and give you all an update on that. We've also got just a litany of code updates that are coming your way. This is the first wave of many coming. We're going to give you an update on that as well. And just some additional information with respect to a city-initiated rezone that we've got going very, very closely to the area where we spoke about this evening. Finally, to my left over here, we have a new secretary, and I would just like to introduce Eileen down here on the other side of Alex. You're going to start seeing a lot more of her as she's new to our team, and she's our Planning Commission secretary. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my update this evening. I will send it back to you, sir.
Oh, thank you so much for that update, Rick. I just wanted to announce to the commission that this will be my last and final commission meeting. I'm resigning to pursue some other endeavors, and it is with deep sadness to be leaving because I think what we're doing here in the city of Maricopa is fantastic. And since I joined the commission February of 2015, it's been 7 years, and I've seen tremendous growth and I've seen tremendous activity in the city of Maricopa. I've really seen this city transform. And although we've experienced some growing pains, I think it's still important that we continue to move forward, and I just hope that my little small part kind of helped in that growth and development. I'd like to thank Nancy Smith for the appointment. She trusted me, and I hope that I've made her proud in these last 7 years. She took a lot of faith in me, and I appreciate that. Rudy Lopez, just absolutely phenomenal. You've been there since day one. You've always picked up the phone. I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done to assist me along the way. City staff, I've seen so many of you folks, and you guys are patient with me. So I appreciate that. And then just the commission in general. Some of you folks I've served with, Ted and Jim, the entire time. And I really appreciate you guys' just leadership on this commission. And I know I'm leaving it in good hands. And I just appreciate everything that the city has done for me. Thank you.
Let's give him a hand.
My gosh, she's gonna make me cry. Number 7, executive session. Seeing no executive session, I will take a motion to adjourn. We got to move to the second. All in favor? We are adjourned.